Live from New York.
We just went live. So there we are, live TV. Don't you just love it? Hi, I'm John Jerkowitz. Welcome to the Career Corner 2.0. My guest today is Melanie McDonald, who's just good at everything she does. And you know, we were in the green room, and if this is your first time visiting here, I revamped the format on my Career Corner. Used to be an hour, went to a half hour. And you know, you're a busy person, small business owner, entrepreneur, traditional workplace. There's always something for your career that you want to take, but you always don't have the time to do it. So I put this format together where I'm bringing people on who work diligently in a certain part of the entrepreneurial and business field, and I've asked them to share a tip for roughly about 15 minutes. And for those of you who are Google Plus fans, you know Melanie. She hosts the TGIF Business Hangout 2, sometimes 3 Fridays a month. She is a graphic artist. She is a social media guru, and she won't admit that, but I will. Okay. And the best thing about Melanie that I found in working with her is that her advice is practical. It has a lot of common sense, and you can understand it. So, Melanie, here I am. I'm a brand new guy in online internet business. I really want to market my coaching and consulting services. What tip are you going to give me?
Well, John, the tip that I'm going to give, first of all, is in your branding, you want consistency and you want to be recognizable. People learn to know brands and know people because they see the same thing over and over and over and over again, reinforced. Let's look at a big corporate example, Target. We know when we've gone to a Target store, we see that red and white bullseye. That's their logo. We look inside their store, and what is all their displays? Red and white. We see the colors used throughout the store. Now, if we go to the Target website, we see a lot of red and a lot of white. And we see that bullseye everywhere. If you look at their card, it's red and white and bullseyes. If you see an ad for them somewhere, you're going to see red and white and bullseyes. So they're taking their branding elements and they are reinforcing them and using them over and over and over again. Now, in the case of someone who is a solopreneur or a small business person, a small business, it's going to be the same thing with their logo and their tagline. You want that used over and over and over again and reinforced. And you want to have your branding colors down. Usually, you want to choose your colors carefully, not just any random colors or just because they're your favorite. Sometimes that works, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But think about what your services and your products are, and think about what colors represent those. Now, as an example, what do I mean by that? Think about the homeopathic and natural products for your body, say, natural body products industries. What colors, John, do you think that those would use?
Probably light grays, yellows, blues. Oh, I guess I'm just thinking soothing, nice colors.
Right. Okay, so exactly. You want soothing colors. I do see a lot of light grays and yellows on those products because they are calming and soothing colors. Other colors I often see would be green and brown. And why do you think those? Green and brown with a splash of a bright color as an accent.
Green and brown kind of represent earthy colors to me, kind
right.
of integrating with the earth, the planet, stuff like that.
Exactly. A lot of those natural products, part of their selling power is that they are made with plants and herbs and not artificial ingredients and chemicals. And so when we think of plants and herbs and flowers, what do we think? Well, brown, green, and a splash of color to represent maybe whatever flowers are on that plant. So those are often the colors that you would see for that type of industry. Now, for someone who's in computer repair, you're probably not going to see the same colors. What colors would you think maybe a computer repair person might use?
Oh, gosh. And by the way, folks, this is totally unrehearsed. blues, maybe blacks. I'm going to say silver too. Just kind of those very finite. When I think black, silver, when I think of a computer, I think of things that are cut, real defined.
Right. And you're exactly right. A lot of those companies will use black and white or black and gray or silver. And, you know, ones and zeros. With computers, it's either on or it's off. So that kind of correlates to black and white. And it's subliminal a lot of times. This stuff is subliminal. There might be another splash of color. A lot of times it's red. Because why red? What does red symbolize in our society? Emergency.
Yeah, I was
right?
going to say anger.
Well, okay, anger, that could be too, because how many times have we been ready to throw our computers through the window when it's not working? And when you're calling a computer repair person, it's because your computer isn't working. And so red is like, I got to get this computer working again. So those are often the colors that you might see in those industries. And this kind of goes with your shapes too. Again, if we're talking about the natural body products and the browns and the greens and the yellows and the grays, a lot of times what you see for graphics on their products are very organic shapes. They're curves, you know, they're lines, they're circles, they're plant leaf shapes and branch shapes. And these are not straight lines and squares. So they're very kind of organic, shapy things, and often you'll see in their logos those organic shapes somewhere in the logo. Whereas in the computer industries, again, it's ones and zeros, it's logic. So you're going to see more things like squares and rectangles and those kinds of images in their logos or in their marketing materials.
I have a question.
Yes.
And I agree with everything you said. I think that's really cool. Now, does your color scheme and your shapes and sizes, do you correlate that with your client base too? The people you're looking to attract, or do those colors kind of universally speak to the people who'd be interested in doing business with you?
Well, John, you have to take all those factors into account. It's got to be a little bit of everything. It's got to, and it depends on what business you're in too. For example, as a solopreneur, when I was doing my own branding, when I first lost my job and went into solopreneurship, actually it was before I went into solopreneurship, and I had been working in a job and I got laid off in the down economy, my intent at that time was to get another job. So I had a website and I had a resume and I had all the stuff put together, my business cards, and I had a very different look than I have now. Back then it was gears, and it was a bunch of gears working together. And the reason I had the gears was because the business that I was in, communications and public outreach and collaboration, had a lot of different parts to it. There was the graphic design component, there was the public speaking component, there was the collaborating with other public agencies component, and then collaborating with the private sector and the residents in the community. So these were all different gears that worked together, and they would flow together and create the overall job. So on my resume I had gears, and when I sent that out as a PDF, you could click on the gears, and it would take you to my website, which also had gears. And depending on which gear, which part you were clicking on, it took you to a different page that told about a project that I worked on that gave an example of that sort of thing. Now, when I realized, because I live in a small town area, that it's not a hotbed of jobs, and that I was going to have to go out on my own as a solopreneur, I changed my branding, because I needed something that represented me and was not geared towards HR people who I wanted to hire me in this, in a new job. So I live in the desert, and my clients are a little bit varied. It's small business people and solopreneurs like you and I for the consulting and the branding, but it's also nonprofits. I do some work for the City of Indio's Environmental Programs Department. I do their posters and I help them do the materials for their outreach campaigns. So, you know, it's a few different varied audiences. So when I came up with my own branding, it was really more about colors that I like that represent me, but represent the desert as well, because that's where my local clientele is. So I'm actually going to share my screen for a minute. And if you can put that on and make that present to everybody on the big screen. You can see in my branding, I personally, the reason I chose the black background is because this is probably not necessarily a great thing, but I do a lot of laying around in bed at night when it's dark and looking at my iPad, and frankly, the white pages just really hurt my eyes. It's too bright.
Okay.
And, you know, and I love black. I wear black. I was a rock chick, you know, all through my 20s and 30s. I just like it. The pink, I'm a little bit girly, and the flower, that is a flower, that is a cactus flower. It's a beaver tail cactus flower. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite desert flowers. And, you know, all my game characters are named after flowers. I'm really into flowers. So that was kind of a natural. This flower is recognizable to people in my local area because it's a very recognizable flower, and the beaver tail cactus is native around here, so we see those. The silver, that's my hair. And if you look at my profile picture, you can see I am silver-haired. And so many people, so many of my friends I knew were just getting depressed when they were going silver. And I kind of embraced it. One day I woke up and realized all my favorite superheroes and fantasy characters have either white, gray, or silver hair. And I realized at that moment that it didn't mean I was old, it just meant I was cool. So I chose the silver as another color, and then the green, that particular shade of green is a shade that we see often here in the desert on cactus and other plants. But to show you the consistency, to illustrate the consistency, this is my Google Plus cover photo. It's got my profile picture, and you will see this same profile picture across all my social media avenues and my website and anywhere that I go. I use that same picture. If someone comes to my Google Plus page and they follow a link to my Twitter page or they go to my website, I want them to know that they landed at the right place right away. I don't want them to land there and think, is this the right person? I'm not really sure. Because that's not reinforcing consistency, and that's not reinforcing my branding. I want them to know, oh yeah, there she is. That's Melanie. Flower, black and pink and silver and green, and same picture. You can see that in my business networking hangout headers here. I still have my profile picture, same one. Instead of the flower, I put my guest. But the black background and the same colors, that green and that pink. If you go to the collections, I made a collection for my TGIF Business Networking Hangout, and again, it's the profile picture, the flower, and the green lettering, and white and pink and silver for TGIF Business Networking Hangout, and same colors that are my branding. It's consistent. That's just the same one, yeah. Oh, this is the collection. So I made this header for the collection that basically is just a repeat. It's a repeat. It's reinforcing and consistency. In my website, you see the same thing. Flower, profile, picture, colors. And Twitter, same thing. Looks like I need to do a little adjusting there, huh?
It looks fine to me.
Now, I'm going to take a look at yours, and we were saying, I looked at yours and said, I got to make you a nice header for your Career Corner Hangouts. What you did right, gray background, gold color, those are the colors consistent with your branding. If we go to your website, John, we see those same colors.
Correct.
And I see your profile, your Google Plus header here, same colors. I just want to fancy it up a little and make it, you know, something that really says John Jerkowitz. Probably I'm going to add your picture like I did on your Google header here. And I think you took that from your website, didn't you?
Correct. Correct.
Right.
Yeah, it's all consistent all the way across the board. Everything you just talked about uses the same header. Okay, whether it's my
Yeah.
website, Twitter, LinkedIn, the whole 9 yards. Well, listen, it's hard to believe we're out of time. Okay, but what I want to give you a quick opportunity to do is, what do you have coming up? Anything you want to talk to us about? Anything
Well,
we might
yeah,
want to take
actually,
advantage of?
the Perfect Close Summit, which you are a part of as well, John, is something that's hosted by a local here where I live in the Coachella Valley. Her name is Abby Joseph Harrington. It's called the Perfect Close Summit, and it's all about closing the sale. Abby interviewed 21 guest experts, including John and myself, about their tips and advice for getting the close on the sale. And so many of us think about marketing and marketing and marketing. And then what's the intended result at the end of all that marketing? Well, we want to make the sale. And yet it seems to me like so little attention is paid to that part of it, that closing the sale part. So she put together this summit and she interviewed 21 people by phone. She's releasing 3 of those interviews each day for the next week starting today. And you can go to theperfectsummit.com to register for that. It's a free event, and you'll get an email with the links and the times of the interviews to listen to.
And as a matter of fact, if you want to hear Melanie, you need to do this right after you've watched this Hangout if you're watching live, because you're speaking at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Is that correct?
Right. It's 12 p.m. PST, 3 p.m. EST, and I will put a link in the event page for the Career Corner where you can go and register this as soon as we go off air.
Okay. Well, Melanie, thank you. Okay. Thank you for taking the time. Valuable information. I have a choice of 3 guests for next week, so I guess I could put some blue heads up there and go guess, but you'll see the event page in a few days. And so for Melanie and myself, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye
Thanks.
now.
Bye-bye.